Stacy Papillion, better known as Sargent Pap, is a law enforcement officer with the Galveston PD. She has been through breast cancer not once but twice and had her mother going through it at the same time. Stacy's story is one of courage, one of resiliency, one of having your brothers and sisters in blue stand right beside you, but it's also one of recognizing the differences that happen if your skin happens to be black. You'll hear more about this in this episode of Let's Talk About Your Breast. When you subscribe to our show, you help us grow. Someone you know may need to hear this story, so please share with your family and friends. And consider supporting our mission. Your donation can help save the life of an uninsured woman. Let's Talk About Your Breast, a different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Stacy, thank you so much for being with us here today.
It's an honor. Thank you for the invite.
You know, I have never had a police officer on this show before, so tell me what in the world attracted you to becoming a police officer?
Well, honestly, I needed some money. Oh. I had at the time three daughters, and I was in the medical field. I was a CNA.
Oh.
And didn't pay much. And so I was thinking, like, goodness, what can I do? I need some more. I need to get in a different tax bracket, you know. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking. So I thought about nursing, becoming an RN, but then being a police officer, it didn't take 4 years, you know, at the time. And DPS, actually, at the time, I saw in the newspaper, they were having a hiring process they were trying to hire more females. So I was like, goodness, Police Academy, 9 months, RN 4 years. Here we go, you know, Police Academy. So I didn't grow up saying I wanted to be a police officer or anything like that. I just honestly, that's the honest answer. I needed more money to take care of my daughters.
Well, what an amazing career you've had, though, since then. I mean, you know, and I think about what you just said about they needed more females. Mm-hmm. And here you are, female police officer who has discovered she has breast cancer. Now, how important was the support of all of your colleagues during that time?
There are no words for it. It's kind of hard to put it in words. The support that I received from all of my brothers and sisters in blue was astounding. It was very important in my journey, the first and second time that I was diagnosed. It was a godsend. You never know how much you need people until you need people.
Oh, right.
And I've always been of the opinion that people care because they want to, not because they have to. All of my brothers and sisters at the Galveston Police Department, not only the Galveston Police Department, just in the law enforcement community, they rallied around me, you know, and they put me in their prayers. And they just, you know, when I was weak, they were strong for me.
Oh, that is so sweet. I never think about men, you know, being that support system for our women, but they are,
yes,
of
ma'am.
course. And now go back to you're a 2-time breast cancer survivor.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you find your breast cancer that first time?
Well, the first time I was just, you know, I was laying down in the bed and I laid on my stomach. And so I felt like a little pain, you know, on my left side. Mm-hmm. And which wasn't uncommon because, you know, women, we have menstrual cycles, you know, we get a little tender there. But, you know, I rolled over and I just kind of started feeling, you know. So I felt like this little bitty, like a pebble, you know, on my left side. So, you know, the type of person I am, I'm going to call the doctor with whatever. I can have a hangnail and I'm making an appointment because it hurt. So I called my gynecologist's office at the time, that same day. And so they had an appointment 2 days later. So I went in and my gynecologist, he told me, he said, well, he felt it, and he said, well, I'm not really concerned about it being cancer. He said, because it normally doesn't present with pain. He said, and I was 35. So he said, but, you know, you're getting close to the age to where we're going to start the mammograms and all that. So I'm going to go ahead, just be on the safe side and send a referral. And I went into Victory Breast Imaging, got my first mammogram and ultrasound, and that's when it was discovered. I kind of had an idea something was wrong because, and that was my first mammogram and ultrasound, but, when something's wrong, they kind of start taking a lot of pictures and they, kind of more people starts coming in and looking at the screen as well. And, I'm sitting there looking like I know what I'm looking for because I don't, but I'm trying to figure out, what are y'all doing? Like, what are y'all looking for? So, but thank God it was caught very early. It was stage 2. And I was able to get through that diagnosis with only God's blessings and His healing.
Now, Stacy.
Yes, ma'am.
You just told us 3 different things there, and it's some things that women don't always do.
Yeah.
First of all, usually cancer doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But you were paying attention to your body.
Yes, ma'am.
And, I'm always amazed at the number of women who have said, there was just this little twinge, or there was just something that was telling me I need to go get that checked.
Yeah.
So that's first message. Let's always listen to our bodies. Second one was you actually did something. I mean, a lot of women, that's a huge message, will say, okay, I'll take care of that later, or I have too much to do to go to the doctor. But, what made you so health conscious?
Well, like you mentioned about listening to our bodies, I've always did that. My mom always taught me to do that. She said, your body's going to tell you something's wrong before your brain tells you something's wrong.
Great advice.
Yes, ma'am. So I, even though I didn't have a history of breast cancer and didn't even know anyone who had breast cancer, I just knew I'd never felt that in my body before. And, we pay a lot of money for health insurance.
Oh, yes.
We pay a lot of money for health insurance. So you may as well use it.
Yes.
You may as well use it. So, of course, from, what my mom has always instilled in me to listen to my body and pay attention to things, I called a doctor right away. I didn't want to put it off. I didn't think it was, anything, but I just had never felt it before.
And, that's the other thing. Your doctor actually listened to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, you're a young woman.
Yes, ma'am.
You have no family history. There's no reason for you to even have breast cancer, and yet that doctor paid attention and went ahead and ordered for you.
Yes, ma'am.
That is another important message.
Yes, ma'am.
If your doctor didn't listen to you, you need to find another doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Period.
Exactly.
So describe what you do on a daily basis. I mean, I have these visions of you hunting down criminals and, all kind of things. So what does your job entail?
Well, currently, I supervise detectives in criminal investigations. I supervise property crimes, and right now I'm starting to supervise family services. I'm also the commander of the Galveston Police Department Honor Guard, and I'm also a part of the crisis negotiations team. And I'm also a part of the public information officers team.
Goodness. So in any of those, you are very active.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're in physical contact at times.
Yes, ma'am.
With different people.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm wondering, how did your day-to-day work schedule change when you were having treatment? Did you describe your treatment first? Did you have surgery? And
Okay. So I'll go back and I'll talk about my 2013 diagnosis, my first one, and then because they were different. They were different. So in 2013, when I was diagnosed, I had chemotherapy, I had radiation, and I had a surgery called a lumpectomy. Okay. So when I was working, at that time as well, and this is just strictly God's blessings, during this journey. I worked patrol for as long as I wanted to, and of course, my supervisors were like, no, you need to come off those streets. We could put you inside. But I was actually feeling fine. I was actually feeling fine going through chemo. I actually broke my finger, in a class, ground fighting, while I'm going through chemotherapy, because I felt fine. However, and I ended up losing my hair in that diagnosis. And as I mentioned to you before, like in that diagnosis, when I have to think back beyond just hearing your name in a sentence of breast cancer, but other than that, it was losing my hair.
Oh, yeah.
It was losing my hair. And I went to MD Anderson, and my team was just amazing. And so my oncologist she told me, she said, "Sweetie, you're gonna lose your hair." And I was like, "Are you sure?" Everybody, 100% of the people, because I wanted to be that 1%,
Right.
that it didn't happen to, and so she was like, "No, sweetheart, I'm sorry, you are, but it's hair. It comes back, it grows back." So while I was working, I mean, like I said, I had so much support. I was still on patrol. I was still answering calls. I was just still doing my thing up until I broke my finger. And I feel like that was God's way of saying, sit down. Sit down and get your treatments and get through this. And then you can go back to that, because that was probably the only way I was going to sit down.
Right.
And I actually broke my pinky on my gun hand. So I couldn't, I couldn't work. And this did not heal for 9 months because I was going through chemotherapy when I broke it.
Yeah.
And my oncologist said, of course she was upset, with me, like, why would you be doing something like that, you're going through. I said, well, I didn't realize I was such a delicate flower now, oh my goodness. So she told me, she said, well, I can hold your treatments for 3 weeks, to let that heal, 3-6 weeks to let that heal. She said, but I don't recommend that. And I was like, well, no, this will heal when it heals, So after I was done, with treatment, with the chemotherapy portion of it, my finger healed, And then when I came back to work, I was completely done with everything. And I used to have some fuzz on my head at the time, too.
Oh, well, that helped.
Yes.
Yes. Go to your second time now. How is that different?
So the difference with the second time, first time I was assigned to patrol. Okay. This second time I was assigned in my current assignment, which is a desk inside, necessarily say a desk. And I work from an office. Mm-hmm. So nothing really changed in my daily duties besides, I couldn't interview suspects, or be like in public as a police officer, because just in case something happened, I was on what we call modified duty. Mm-hmm. So when you're on modified duty, it's usually due to some injury or some type of health issue you have going on, and it may not be safe for you to be out in public as a police officer, because if something happens, we have a duty to respond.
And your second diagnosis was much more difficult, or what happened during that?
Well, the second time, and
how many years was it later?
8.
8. Okay.
Yeah, 8. The second time was just routine. I was getting my mammogram. I was actually taking care of my mother. She had been diagnosed in April.
Okay, so your mother was diagnosed in April.
And then I was diagnosed in September.
For the second time.
Yes, ma'am.
So here you are, you've already had breast cancer. Now you're taking care of your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
Who has breast cancer.
Yes, ma'am.
And was hers early stage?
Kinda. And the reason I say kinda is because my mom, once it was discovered, she had the tumor in her left boob for maybe a year.
Oh.
And it hadn't went anywhere. And the way hers was discovered, so she was having issues with her eyes. And I went to a doctor's appointment with her to figure out, what's the problem, what we need to do. She was getting these calcium deposits in her eyes. Mm-hmm. And so the doctor had suggested that she get these different tests, because he said until we get to the issue of why the calcium is building up, he could treat it, but then it'll just continue to come back. So, he sends a list with us, and I go to her PCP, and, okay, we need to get these, tests done. So the PCP is going through her medical stuff, and, you haven't had a mammogram, in like several years. You need to go and get one. So we're thinking it's just routine. Well, I'm thinking it's just routine because my mom had never mentioned to me this, So we go and we get to the mammogram appointment, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and they do her mammogram, and the nurse comes out to me, and she says she'll be back. And I was like, excuse me? Did y'all see something? And she was like, yes, ma'am, she'll be back. I was like, oh, okay, okay. So my mom's in her room, she's getting dressed, and when she comes out, and I said, okay, well, Mom, how are you feeling? What they tell you? What's going on? And she said, well, they say they saw something. She's really nonchalant about it. So they're gonna set an appointment, for me to come back, and they're gonna do a biopsy and this and that. I said, okay, Mom. So I can look at my mom and tell she was a bit concerned, but I didn't want her to feel like I was like, oh my God, like I was freaking out.
But you had to have been.
Yeah, I was on the inside. But I didn't want to startle her until we knew, until we knew exactly, what was going on. So when I asked her, I said, well, Mom, they did say that there was a little something. And she was like, yeah. I said, well, why didn't you say anything? Like it didn't bother. But no, it didn't bother me, so I didn't bother it. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, your mother.
Yeah. I said, yes, ma'am. So there, we go back, they do the biopsy, and of course it comes back as positive for triple negative breast cancer. But it went nowhere. It was just right there. Like it didn't spread to her lymph nodes or anything like that, which was once again a blessing, which was once again a blessing. And I did not fuss at my mom because that's my mom, and she still puts the fear of God in me, even though I'm 47 years old. I said, well, Mama, you always told me to listen to my body. You wasn't listening. It wasn't loud enough. And she was like, girl, sit down somewhere. And I was like, yes, ma'am. And I just shut up.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Now, did she have to have full treatment? Just like
she did. She did. And actually, let me back up, because my second diagnosis in September was triple negative as well on the left side. My mom's was on the left side, triple negative. They, of course, did the genetic testing, which I had back in 2013 for BRCA1 and 2, which came back no mutations detected. So this time they did 36 more, and they tested my mom for the same ones, and it came back no mutations detected in either of us. So something's happening. Like something's going on somewhere. So for her treatment, she had chemotherapy, and she ended up losing her hair as well. And that's it. They did not do radiation on her at all. This second time.
How old was she?
76.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 76. Yeah. The second time around, I didn't lose my hair. That's why I have so much, on my head. I actually did the scalp cooling, and it worked. It worked for me. And when my oncologist, she didn't recommend, she offered it, to me. Because the first time in 2013, because I was like, why didn't I get this then? And she was like, well, back then, it wasn't, I don't remember if she said it wasn't FDA approved, or MD Anderson only uses things that are tried and true.
Right.
And at that time, it wasn't tried and true. But this time, she said, okay, well, this is an option, for you. And then also it depends on the chemotherapy drugs that you're going to be taking. Yeah, that, because some of them, it doesn't matter what you do to your hair. Your hair is going to fall out. But so when she gave me this option, she told me, she said, now, I don't know, I can't tell you. I can't tell you if it's going to work or not. One, my hair is really thick, and I have African American natural hair, and the way that the scalp cooling process works, the cap has to sit right on your scalp, like have contact with your scalp. And if your hair is really thick, it's kind of hard to push it down. But I told my oncologist, I said, well, I'm going to try. And if it works, prayerfully it works, then everyone will know it works for African American women too, or anyone with thick hair.
That's
anyone
important.
with really thick hair.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, then it's hair. It'll grow back. It'll grow back. And so I went through that process, which is not an easy process because, oh my goodness, it hurts. It hurts. I mean, you call it a brain freeze. It's like you're eating 20,000 snow cones at one time, because it immediately starts freezing. Like once you put it, well, then the nurses helped me to get it on my hair because I had to soak my hair with water, and then they put the cap on that you have to be measured for. And as soon as they hook it up to the little machine and it cuts on, it instantly, like you can hear it. Oh. And the first time, oh my goodness, my head was hurting so bad. And I asked my oncologist if I could take Tylenol, which during when you're getting chemotherapy, they really don't like to give you Tylenol because if you're having some type of a fever or something, they need to know if there's an infection somewhere. Right. But she was like, okay, only during your treatment, and so the Tylenol did help out. But I mean, at the beginning of the scalp cooling process, the amount of hair you see on my head now, this is the amount that I left with.
So nothing changed.
Very,
with it.
very, very little shedding. But I had no bald spots or anything like that. But my hair was so thick as it is now that I had very minimal.
Now,
shedding.
how many treatments did you have though?
4.
4.
Mm-hmm. I had 4, and the first my first time in 2013, I went through several. I had Taxol once a week for 12 weeks, and then I had the big 3. They call it. I think I had 4 treatments of that, and this time I just had the big 3, and then my scalp cooling. I didn't get radiation again because once they do it one time, they don't like to do it again. But I had a mastectomy on the left side this time. I wasn't given an option of lumpectomy. My oncologist was like, "No, that girl, that puppy got to go."
Oh,
But
did you do reconstruction?
yes, ma'am, I did, and the advancement, of plastic surgery and just, you can't tell. Like, they make you whole. Again, they make you whole again. So, and my mom went through reconstruction as well.
She had hers first, though. April, and you in September.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're taking care of each other even through mastectomy and reconstruction and
yes. And I was happy that we got her through chemo before I started chemo because I had some hiccups. I had an infection happen, and my chemo was kind of put off until that was cleared up. So I was happy that we were able to get her through chemo and on the road to reconstruction before I got down and started, doing all that. So,
but how unusual for both mother and daughter to be having the same type of procedure and the same type of recovery.
And I feel like I was diagnosed again so that my mother wouldn't have to go through this alone.
Stacy.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Yes, because and I feel like it was a blessing. I don't feel like it was a curse at all. I feel like I was actually able to. My mom was able to go through it with me, knowing that we were going through it at the same time. We were a team, and I just think that, God, his thoughts are way above ours,
That's true.
And his plans are way above ours. And he puts us through things that he needs us to go through for someone else, to help someone else. And I've always felt like my diagnosis, both times, was so I can help someone else, and so I never questioned God as to why me. I always said, why not me? Because my journeys have been blessed. Like I have not had terrible war stories or anything like that. I remember my first diagnosis, and of course, I didn't know anybody. And when you go online, you only see the horror stories. You no one that goes through it and actually gets through it, and no one's really positive about it. Back then, it was always, I got chemotherapy, and you see these photos, and someone's eyes is sunken in their head, like you're just thinking, oh my God, this is like the end. This is going to be the end for me. And so after that diagnosis, and I thought back, and I was like, man, I need to speak up about how my journey went. It wasn't, of course, nobody wants, to be diagnosed with any type of cancer. But if I had to go through it, I thank God that I went through it with grace and that He blessed my journey. He put the right people in my path. He blessed me to make the right decisions in regards to my treatment, which that is something that all women and everyone needs to know, to be very active in your health care. I asked a lot of questions, and I would tell my oncologist, make it plain. I didn't go to medical school.
Oh, good advice.
Yeah,
yes.
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
Because if I don't understand it, I'm not going to say yes. So, you understand, you went to medical school. I did not, so make it plain for me, and of course that happened. I mean, I had some of the best doctors.
So, Stacy, you're talking about how you felt like you needed to share your story.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like telling it publicly for the first time? Do you remember that time?
I do. I was actually eager and excited.
Was it to your colleagues or at another
Just to
event?
anybody who wanted to know. I've always been an open book, even from the first time. I didn't know, like, my first diagnosis, I had to process that.
Right.
I had to process that, and I had to process how to tell people if I wanted to tell people, but how could I not tell people? Like, it was, because I come to work and all my hair is gone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So somebody's going to be like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
And then I had my daughters, at the time who were small. They were teenagers and tweens. And, my youngest was 10 years old or something. She was very young. So I had to figure out, well, my husband and I, had to figure out how to tell them in a way that they didn't worry or start doing bad in school or start, get depressed or anything like that. And, one thing about children, they may not know exactly what's wrong, but they know something's wrong.
They know something's wrong, yes.
So when we got around to telling them, they were like, okay. But we told them in the way of, don't worry, mommy's going to be fine. I'm going to be just fine. And I think when they saw that my husband and I were fine. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't crying. We wasn't, we were just still being their parents and being their strong parents. Then they were content. They were, comforted. Of course, scared, during the journey. And I know that, those are my daughters. They didn't want me to worry, but I know that they were.
But that brings me to the next question about who do you think between your mother and you worried the most?
That is a very hard question. And the reason it's hard is because, it's hard for me to answer, is because I'm also a daughter and a mother. True. So I'm kind of in both roles. And I know that I was very concerned about my daughters and how they were feeling about my diagnosis. But then I know that my mom, when I was going through it, I mean, of course, she's there every step of the way, every waking moment. I'm her baby. And so I know that she was definitely, concerned and very worried about me. But I just feel like I could have been more worried about her,
No.
because my mom has always been my hero, my shero. She has always been the strongest woman I know, the strongest woman I know. And I just couldn't imagine my life without her. But then I know she was kind of feeling the same way,
Right.
So I think if I can't answer that. Like,
All right.
Yeah.
So bring us back to your advocacy. Did you bring one of the pink patches
I
that you
did.
have for
you? I sure did.
Oh, is this it?
Oh, it is.
There.
There you go.
Oh my goodness! Now tell me how this works and who started it and all of those kind of things.
Okay.
This is the breast cancer awareness patch.
Yes, ma'am, for the Galveston Police Department.
For the Galveston Police Department.
Yes, ma'am. Well, so our chief, Chief Douglas Bally, he's always been very supportive of breast cancer awareness. And so he wanted to do something different with the Galveston Police Department as far as our initiative of breast cancer awareness month. And so I meet with him, and we're discussing just different things. Like, I don't know, because we used to do the pink T-shirts all the time, and I had found these little pink pins, and then we talked about shoelaces, just different things to go on a uniform, but we had to be tactical and practical, in regards to our uniform. So we had never had a patch. The Galveston Police Department had never had a breast cancer awareness patch, which, as you know, across the nation, different law enforcement agencies, fire departments, they always do something, whether it's uniform changes or patches. So the chief told me, he said, well, Pap, find us a patch. Find us a patch. So I actually got with our uniform, the guy that we use, and he came up with like 4 different selections. And that was the one that the chief selected. Yeah.
And do you use it for just awareness, raise money, or what happens?
Well, and we just started that last October.
Oh, it's new.
Yeah. So what we did was it was affixed to all of the patrol officers' duty uniform shirts, and for CID, criminal investigations, we had these here. And so we're looking into pink badges because we're plainclothes detectives. So right now, it's just for the month of October for our uniforms. However, we are going to start looking into fundraising and just different things that we can do. And I've had an outpouring of interest in people that like to trade patches. The citizens definitely love the patches, and so they contact me. Can I get a patch? So I wish I had like a warehouse full of them, so I could
just may
pass out. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of positive feedback,
and it's
from
a
the
great
patch.
way to raise awareness.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Stacy, I so appreciate you being with us today and being brave enough to tell us your story. I mean, it's a great story, and also love the way that you're bringing awareness to breast cancer and to the importance of having your mammogram.
Yes, ma'am.
Knowing your body, talking up to your doctor.
Yes.
Being sure you understand everything.
And seeking support. There are people out there who have no one, and they go through this diagnosis alone. And I just want to speak to anyone out there who is going through it, and you may not have the support system that you need or a support system at all. Please reach out. There are many breast cancer support groups everywhere, and
they can hunt down Stacy.
They sure can. They sure can. I work for the Galveston Police Department. I am not hard to find.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.